See, more specifically, so probes explore or investigate CIs on your network. For example, if you use a probe, means it can try to explore about your CI, or otherwise it can try to investigate. What it may be, investigate or exploring your networking. For example, if any CI is there available, so you just try to in our network area, it can try to explore it. And sensors pass the data written from the probes. So what it returns, for example, one CI is identified with a probe, then that sensors can try to transfer the data so to from the probe. For example, if any CI is just identified with a probe, so then it can try to transfer, it can try to just make it into a our CMDB CI, and it can try to just parsing the data. And several probes and sensors are provided by default. So you can see the probes and sensor already by default it can already created. If you want to create them, and if you want to customizing of your different type of information, you can create also. You can also configure several parameters to control the behavior of your particular probe every time it is triggered. So we can easy to identify each and every probe, each and every sensor, so can work in a different type of purpose. So you can make it, and you can make changes in your scripting or something, so you can control the probes and sensors as per your requirement. Okay, so this is very important, you can just keep in your mind. See, probes and sensors mean simple. So these are the components. We can find out the data. For example, laptop data, laptop in a particular information only I need to find out. So that's why in this discovery area, we need to send a probe. Okay, so that probe is related to the particular, for example, like a email information only I need to fetch. So I need written already that email information, some details of a particular probe I already written in your script. So simply if can write it can write to fetch the data from the laptop, for example some router or something, whatever it may be. So then automatically what will happen, it can identify the CI. If the CI is identified, then sensor can try to pass the data. That's it. So these are the first one will execution will be probe, then after second execution will be a sensor. So these are the things we can use in our probes and sensor. Okay, so fine, everything will be fine. What about the patterns? We already know the probes and sensors. Probes are right to identify the CI, and the sensors can try to pass the data from the CI. Okay, this is fine. Patterns is nothing but patterns also like probes and sensors. Patterns is also like a probes and sensor, but the series of operations that also collect data on a host, process it, and update to the CMDB. So patterns also same as is like a probes and sensor can try to identify the CI, can try to fetch the details from the CI, and it can try to store as a configuration items in our CMDB table. Fine. So patterns also same as like a probes and sensor. But what is the difference between these two? The patterns differ from probes and sensor in that they are written in a Nebula Discovery Language, NDL. So patterns is also like a sensors and probes, but the small difference is, so what does that means? The sensors and probes use the JavaScript, okay, to find out the different type of CIs. But now, so we are using in our patterns means NDL. So Nebula Discovery Language. So we will use the Nebula Discovery Language to find out the CIs, and so rather than the JavaScript. That's the reason. And they are called into the action in their latter stages of a horizontal discovery process. Some areas we need to use a NDL also. Okay, so that's area we can use the patterns. So default patterns also defined. So you want to customize your pattern, you can create your customized patterns, right? Okay, so I'll show where it will be the patterns, everything will be there. So for example, these are sensors and probes, we shown that patterns. See, so discovery patterns are there. You can click on discovery patterns. So these are the discovery patterns, it already predefined. See that it is a NDL. So if I'm right to just click on anything, for example, A10 load balancer is already written some kind of the like a probe or sensor type only. So here there is a loading pattern designer. So these are the pattern designer. It will try to show in a other tab. That's it. So both are same as it is in your area. Say shared library, for example, AIX. You can see
Quick
like
questions.
this. Yes, so
Hello.
discovery patterns are there like this, and here we can see that it's a language we use. There is a NDL in a patterns like this kind of the see that grab NDL file from the mid server. We need to get the file from the mid server also. These are the basic information. So it already created it like a so patterns like I see here.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Srinivas garu, tell me.
Yeah. Quick question. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. As we have a probes and sensors, right? So why we need again patterns? They are introduced in service now.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. See, while using any discovery, sometimes, so some organizations we can use that NDL. So, Nebula Discovery Language they will use. So, in that area, we can use the patterns. Okay, so all organizations are not to use this JavaScript. So sometimes they have a special category. They will use that NDL also. So in that area, we can use the patterns to find out the data from the particular like a routers or anywhere. So we have option. That is our wish. Most probably, all of the organizations are using that sensors and probes only. But there is a additional features also available in our patterns like a patterns so we can use. That's the reason.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
yes, fine. Okay, now let's we see that these are the different type of patterns are there. These are already predefined patterns, so already created patterns are created and it will be showing in our this like a demo data. So if we need to just see that pattern name is there, so this is a pattern. So there's already this written script, okay, and tracked files are there. If anything files, it can write to track by using the like a tracked one means we can use this one, or otherwise input parameters also there. If any input parameters we can use, and parameter orchestration. In an orchestration we can use this one. So I'll show at the time of so orchestration. So these are all information we can use in our patterns also. Okay, I given you some screenshots. Then after that, so horizontal discovery phases will also there. So what is the phases? What is the important thing of phases? I'll explain. Simple. See, horizontal discovery phases. We have the different type of phases are there. So discovery follows these phases. What kind of the phases? First one is a scanning. So discovery will first start with a scanning. So discovery sends a probe called as a Shazam to the network to see if commonly used ports are open and if these ports can respond to the queries. Okay, simple. For example, in our discovery, first of all, it's a starting area. So first of all, you can try to scan the ports. So whether the ports are working or not. So simple. Shazam is a one already predefined. That is a probes return. Already Shazam will be there. I'll show that the Shazam will be there. The Shazam simply it can write to send a probe. That the Shazam probe it can write to send into the network. And if any kind of the ports can identify, so if ports can identify it can respond any kind of the ports with a query, then this probe then automatically it can identify so that kind of the server name or something. Example they given once you see if Shazam finds a device that responds on port. So Shazam is a one kind of the probe we return. It's a, like a service now already return one probe and it can try to find out the port value. If the port value is a 135, the port 135 it can be right to identify, then automatically what will happen, so it discovery identifies that it is a Windows server. See that kind of the so scanning it will right to fetch by using this probes. I'll show that probes. So in that probe where is the scanning process will be there, probes, and see probes are there. In that Shazam is there or not, you can see Shazam already written. So default it will be just coming from the service now. Okay, see here this is Shazam is a probe. Class is a probe, and ECCQ topic is a Shazam, and you see that used by discovery only, right? So it can try to identify. You can see that description also they given. What is the description? So determines so what devices are active by doing a targeted port scanning. While so scanning in a port scanning, what kind of the active devices are there? So if any active devices are there as per the so port to probes, we can identify with a Windows server or any other kind of servers we can use. See here, port probe parameters are there. Like a so debugging is a just a false, and generic TCP wait for connect MS is nothing but these are the parameters we can use in our mid servers. How we use the parameter same as this. If we need to just give a functionality to the particular so probe, we can add the extra functionalities. Okay, so like a port probes also there. You can see that port probes. So these are all different type of port probes are there, like HTTP and printers, SLP, SSH. These are all kind of the different type of port probes are there. If anything, just same as is way. For example, servers will be there or not. We can see VM, SSH, SNP, printers, OSX. Okay, I think is a OS operating system. See that we can use this one. So OS or anything, this kind of the triggering so trigger probes are there. So we can try to just scan that particular probe, and if anything, probe can try to identify, so automatically it can give the data of a, so it can try to identify the data. Okay, so which server it will be, there is like a Windows server, any other servers are there or not. So these are all the different type of so port probes are there, as well as ports also there. In our after installation of our discovery and everything, we'll go with a different type of how to find out that particular device IP address or device particular health issues and everything. In a quick discovery will be there. I'll show everything in our so next classes. Okay, so next, after completion of this one, so in our scanning, after scanning, the classification is also there. So the classification is nothing but if discovery finds the devices or computers. For example, if any discovery is finding the particular device. Okay, so and then after completion of the finding of a device, just now what I said, that is a Shazam is a one probe can try to identify that. So whether it is a server, Windows server, any other servers. For example, Windows server, it can identify it, and it sends additional probes to find the type of device. Okay, the first one means the first probes it will send for the scanning, and it can identify it is a Windows server. Fine. So and it can try to send again, our discovery can try to send another additional probes to finding of a type of device, what kind of the device it will be, or operating systems on the device. For example, discovery sends a WMI probe. Just now I shown that. So WMI probe to a Windows machine to detect the Windows 2012 operating system. For example, WMI. So probe is right to send to that particular area, and it can identify whether it is a Windows 2012 operating system is using or not. If it is right, then it can try to classify. Okay, so and we can use the classifiers also. After finding the details, then we can go for the classifiers. So which specify the trigger probe or probes that run during the next two phases. So in the next phases, it will come, I'll explain. If you are using the patterns, the classifier specify a trigger probe, so that in turn launches a pattern. So we can go for the, so after classification, so we can identify classifiers also there. Classifier means, so exploration will be there, I'll show. So identification and exploration, these two are the classifiers. So classifier means we can classify. So which one it will be? So discovery tries to gather more information about the device, and then tries to determine if a CI for the device exists in the CMDB. For example, so identification means, for example, it can gather the Windows operating system from the particular device. Fine. So then it will come back to the CI, and in that CI it can identify already Windows 2012 operating system CI is there or not. It can identify in your CMDB table. Okay, if it can try to appear the CI is available, then automatically it can try to update the information in that CI only. If it is not, okay, If it is not present, then automatically it will create a new one as a CI. So, got it? So these are the identification, and identifiers also known as the identification rules. So each and every identification is a having some rules. So in a which conditions it can write to update and which conditions it can write to create. Each and everything have a particular rules are there, and the attributes that the probes look at when reconciling data with the CIs in the CMDB. For example, in a CIs, so it can try to reconcile the particular different type of probes and everything, right? So if you are using the patterns, discovery uses the appropriate identification rule for the CI type specified in the pattern. So if we are using the particular discovery area, so identify the rule, and if which is satisfying the particular rule. If any CI is satisfying the particular rule or not, it can try to either update or create new one. So these are called as a identification. And next one is a exploration. So the identifier launches additional probes configured in the classifier. Again, we can use the additional probes to configure in a particular classifier. So these probes are especially designed as a exploration probes to gather additional information about the device, like a applications running it and additional attributes such as a memory, network cards, and drivers. So discovery then creates a relationship between the applications and devices and between the application. What is the meaning of this one? Simple. Exploration is nothing but after getting the result from the particular probes, so we can gather information from the probes and it can write to store in a CMDB. Either it is a already defined CI is there, means it can update as per your identification rules. Okay, fine. So then after that, it can write to send you another probes to get the different type of parameters, like a so network cards are there or in anything, memory is there or not, how much of memory will be there and what kind of the drivers are installed, each and everything. So it can write to the discovery can write to send a probes to the particular device. It can fetch the each and every category information. That information and that relationship will make with a exploration area. Okay, now. So in the particular ACI, it can write to update the whole and sole information. One CI is there, one router is there. That router information will be updating in your CI. Okay, fine. So and after that, so for example, I need to identify the memory. So once one probe will be sent to that particular device again. So continuously the probes are right to send to the probes is nothing but questionnaires, like a queries are sending to the particular router or whatever maybe, like a application. Then that application can ready to transfer the data, so that data can ready to updating in your CI. So these are the different type of components we are using for the finding of your particular data. These are the searching option. Each and every area where you can identify. So discovery is nothing but like a searching. Okay. For example, simple in our general language we'll discuss. Now we discussed to overall service now discovery patterns, sensors, and so probes we discussed now. Simple. I'll say in a general scenario. So in a simple words we can easy to identify. For example, if you go and write exam, okay. If a for example I'm writing a government organization exam, if any a govt job, I need to just government job. So first of all, what does it means? Prelims are there and mains will be there. Just in a general, prelims is nothing but starting area for starting. So overall, what is that? They will ask about the different type of questions, like a discovery. Also say simple. First, they will ask about your knowledge, general knowledge. So that's why what I'm going to say. So in a Shazam is a one example I said now. It will send a one probe for identification of a port. Then if port is 135, what I explained, that is a Windows server. It identified. It will ask a question. Question is nothing but probes and sensors. Okay. So it will ask a one question. So then yes, if I'm giving a proper answer, then automatically yes, he has okay general knowledge. Then it can identify. So then after that, it can ready to after scanning that particular our GK, then it will go for that identification, like a classification. What kind of the classification means? So what kind of the standard he has in your in their knowledge. For example, you have a normal talent or any high talent, everything as per the questions only, one by one questions can try to ask to our particular what does it means writing exam people. One first question completed, okay, it can identify, yes, so he has knowledge on a particular GK, right? It will ask about the technology, it will ask about the different type of parameter. Each and every question is we feel in our service now is a so probes and sensors, that's it. By using the technique only, it can identify that particular candidate information. Yes, after so getting the good information, after get the, for example, in 100 marks, okay, he got the 70% marks, okay, then that CI can try to store that, can CI can identify, yes, he has a capable of this 70 percentage in your organization, like this. So whether it can try to give a job or not, that is different. Okay, so these are the different type of sensors and probes are there to finding of your information, like your devices information. So that's the reason. And we'll go with a so discovery communication through mid servers. So these are the discovery communications will also be there, with a mid servers will be there. So with a mid servers, we already discussed about the mid servers, right? So that we'll discuss by tomorrow, and as well as we'll discuss about the what kind of the how to install the mid sorry discovery, and each and everything I'll discuss in our next